Hello and welcome to the Small Business Briefing. I'm Brian Kelly, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sarah Miller, Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Communications. We appreciate you joining us today. We do have a special guest, but before we get into those lines of questions, Brian, I do want to talk about the Federal Reserve's decision yesterday. Were there any surprises?
So this was really the point at which many people last year expected interest rates to start declining. But as the first few inflation reports had come out for January and February, it was persistently high, especially the core inflation not coming down as much as they were looking. So it was diminishing the hopes of an interest rate cut. And so it was not expected that there would be an interest rate cut, and there wasn't. So that happened just as everybody expected. However, Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve Board of Directors, went out of his way to indicate that they still anticipate not just interest rates cuts later this year, but he said 3 interest rate cuts, which probably usually it's a quarter point at a time. So I was a bit surprised, not a bit surprised, I was very surprised, given that the inflation data didn't necessarily give a lot of confidence that it's still going down. It kind of looks like it's stubbornly stuck there, or maybe ticking up a little bit. So I was concerned that there wouldn't be much hope offered. Well, he went beyond just giving hope. He gave a number, 3 interest rate cuts later on this year. So I think that was something welcome news. I always kind of assume on these things, and maybe not appropriately, but I kind of assume that they've got a lot of information that while the top line numbers look like actually probably it's not time to start cutting rates, that there's something that they're seeing that is giving them confidence that it will be appropriate to do so later on this year. So I'd say overall, I received it as good news, good indication that nothing bad happened, and a projection of something good to come.
All right, that is good news. We'll take it. We do have a special guest joining us today. Shalini Khandelwal is the Director of Behavioral Health Strategy and Market Performance at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan in the Chief Medical Officer Division, and she is here to talk to us today about behavioral health strategies.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to really jump. It's actually a topic that's very passionate about, and kind of a personal topic too. I have a daughter with autism, and behavioral health services it's a regular part of our lives, and sometimes it seems a bit disjointed from our healthcare system. Generally the healthcare from the neck up. So wanted to start out by asking you just to share with us some of the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan behavioral health enhancements that are on tap for 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. Our vision is really to support the long-term strategy positioning Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan as a market leader in delivering innovative whole person solutions focused on integration of behavioral and physical health care, and meeting our members and customers' needs. So that being said, we're always finding ways to continuously improve and meet our members' needs. After thorough analysis and assessing market demand, we've implemented some key enhancements for 2024. So just to kind of highlight what some of those are, stronger integration of pharmacy, behavioral health, and medical. We know integration is really important. This isn't just, something that we can't just look at behavioral health in a silo. We can't look at physical health in a silo. How do we, work on more of that whole person health? We also know early detection and early treatment is important. So some of these new enhancements will allow for more advanced and sophisticated analytics that will identify and guide individuals into care earlier and throughout recovery. We also know that behavioral health is not one size fits all. So we want to provide more tailored programs based on member need, including substance use disorder, eating disorders, resources for the LGBTQ+ community, resources for autism, maternity, and geriatric. And lastly, we've added support for families and children with our new family support program.
So I actually was just reading about the family support program. I'd love to have you, I mean, really great, like, it's true of a lot of challenges that people face where it's, there's the person who needs the support, but then also there's, the implications and the impacts on the rest of the family. And behavioral health, I think, really, in many cases, has a dramatic impact on the rest of the family. Just tell us about the family support program.
Yeah, and that's what it is. That's exactly what you just said, that, with the youth mental health crisis, there is a high demand for support. Demand for support is on the rise. And this new family support program via care management will help families navigating the care journey for their children. So like you said, what we've also heard is there's a need for more personalized support for caregivers with children specifically that have depression or autism. So this program is intended to help alleviate some of those complexities of navigating the system and increase confidence in finding the right care. So with that, at a very high level, this program, families will have access to 2 different avenues to engage, whether that's self-guided through digital resources or telephonic engagement. And that it's essentially care navigation that will help them understand the different care options, find services to help manage their children's behavioral health condition.
Great. And how about, so you guys always have new things going, and part of our mission here is to make sure that those who have Blue Cross and Blue Care Network plans through SBAM, but also or through anybody, to really know about these enhancements that are being made. Just a little bit about the outreach.
Yep. So meeting our members where they are at is a key pillar to our overall strategy. One of the key ways that we can increase awareness, education, and reduce stigma. We still know there's a lot of stigma around behavioral health. So one of those key ways is through our member engagement campaigns. These campaigns have been successful in directing members to resources based on their needs and self-service through our behavioral health website. The content is regularly optimized. It's tailored based on segments of the population. I mentioned some of those specialty programs earlier, but similarly, we really try our best to have tailored marketing and outreach, whether that's for parents, children, teens, seniors, etc. And since its launch for the behavioral health campaign, it's outperformed benchmark metrics, meaning we've seen a lot, high utilization and high outreach to our members for this campaign specifically.
Great. Well, I appreciate you coming on to explain all of that, and maybe just like the resources, like how somebody just piques an interest and really wants to take advantage. How do they find out more about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually what we get a lot from our members and our customers. There's a lot of information coming to our members, employers, and if not through member engagement campaigns or our behavioral health website, we have a new enhancement where we want our members to be able to access resources when they need it, all in one easy to access location. I know that's promising, but that's really what we're striving towards, where it's, it's not where to go for care. They can find those resources in one spot. So our new behavioral health support page, which is accessible through the member's online account, it offers more of a curated member experience, the ability for a member to complete a questionnaire and be directed to resources accordingly based on their needs. They can filter and access resources based on what exactly they're looking for. So I know we will be discussing this in more detail on the upcoming Behavioral Health Resources webinar on May 1st. And SBAM will be providing more information on this in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, very good. And I think we're actually dropping the link in the comments so that people can learn more about it right now. Shalini, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate the work, and as always, the service on behalf of our members.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, yes, thank you. And I did share the link. Please register. This webinar is free to attend. I encourage you to register even if you're not sure you're able to make it live. We do record these webinars and they'll be made available to all registrants upon completion of the webinar. All right, so Brian, we have a few other topics to cover today. The first is related to EPA announcements regarding amendments to emissions standards.
Yeah, this is one that that has a pretty big impact on Michigan, just given that so much of the automotive manufacturing happens here or as part of the supply chain for the North American, or the heart of the supply chain for the North American domestic automobile industry. There was a lot of concern over some deadlines for emission standards that were set before, and consumers not really responding the way that the feds had hoped in terms of the changeover in the fleet, so the demand for electric cars in the first place. So they really did extend or delay some of those demands, or some of those the regulations and the standards. So it was something the industry was looking at or for, but as they issue this rule, it's probably something that's going to get challenged as well through the judicial system, through in court. But I think really it's in terms of the more immediate deadlines, pushing those out a bit, or something that the industry was pretty pleased with. There's several factors that are at play here. Consumer demand, of course. There's also cost. I mean, it's just a cost issue. It's a pretty expensive proposition for people to go full on electric, but then and then just the infrastructure that is required in order to support that, and then the efficiency of recharging, how long it takes in comparison to alternative like internal combustion engines. So there's several pieces of this puzzle that are going to need to come together in order for the feds to achieve those goals. And so this was a step just to kind of push back the earlier deadlines based on consumer activity we're seeing so far.
All right, let's now get an update on the redrawn redistricting maps.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing saga. I just noticed, I just saw a headline that the Citizens Redistricting Commission voted themselves a 40% pay increase. I don't know. I don't really, they've not done a very good job. So it's a weird time to vote themselves a pay increase at all, let alone 40%. But anyway, the maps that they drew for Southeast Michigan deemed unconstitutional. The federal court had ordered them to draw new maps. They appointed what they call a special master to supervise the process. Now, when it comes to the previous racial gerrymandering that the federal court said occurred, the special master said, you know what, these maps correct that. And that was a question. I think there were some people that questioned whether or not they corrected it, that they went far enough in correcting those concerns. So the court's appointee has signed off and said, yes, these maps do correct the original problem. However, there are other challenges that are being launched against the new maps, and that includes, according to the same group in Southeast Michigan, Detroit, that challenged the maps and said that they were drawn in a way that suppresses the Black vote or suppresses Black representation in the legislative process. That group is saying that these maps went out of their way to protect incumbents, and that they still need further. In other words, they were drawn in ways that could maybe address the issues, but just happen to make sure that all the incumbents were taken care of. That is not supposed to be one of the factors that they consider when drawing maps. If you look at the Citizens Redistricting Commission, the standards by which they draw the maps, making sure that incumbents don't get drawn into maps with other incumbents is not one of the factors. And so the theory is that that was a consideration because these maps seem to kind of go out of their way to ensure that incumbents did not get pitted against other incumbents. So it's I don't have a good sense. You might remember when I was talking about this before, I was very, very confident that these maps were illegal, at least a part of the maps in Southeast Michigan. I don't have a good feel for whether or not the renewed challenges based on incumbency protection, how valid those are, and whether or not that presents a real legal challenge to the veracity of the redrawn maps. This will have to be resolved and resolved very quickly, because coming up soon, next month, the end of next month, is the filing deadline for people to run for office for state representative in these new maps next time. Remember, the Citizens Redistricting Commission still has to redraw the Senate maps, but they decided not to do that because senators are on 4-year terms, not 2-year terms. They're not up against the deadline for the Senate. So they will, I believe that they will have to resolve this once and for all by next month, and or hopefully before next month, because the filing deadline is when you got to get signatures turned in, and you can't collect. You have to, all your signatures have to be inside the district, and you got to know where the district lines are in order to do that. So I don't think we'll have to wait very much longer. It seems like this is mostly resolved, but there's just a new challenge that I just don't have a good feel for whether or not there's a lot of veracity or heft behind that challenge.
Okay, let's move on to talking about the U.S. Supreme Court decision regarding the real estate industry. It's been making a lot of headlines. And so what's the impact here?
Yeah, I wanted to at least acknowledge this. You know, it's a vertical trade that's impacted in a big, big way. But also anybody who owns real estate and buying and selling real estate would be impacted by this decision. Essentially, what happened was the court has indicated that it's not legal for the National Realtors Association to essentially control the um, the commissions that buyers and sellers really in the American system that sellers pay. So it's 5 or 6%, and you're kind of locked out of the system if you don't adhere to that cost standard. So like the market forces aren't at work. That was challenged in the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court did essentially break that up, and indicating that you can't lock a realtor out because they want to charge less in terms of the commission. And so that will have a big impact on this industry. The evidence in the case pointed to a bunch of other countries that have much lower commissions, and when you let these market forces work, commission costs go down. In the UK, it's as low as 1.5% instead of 5 or 6. The other thing that I think is might have some big unintended consequences is that it also said that you can't just make it so that the seller pays all of the commission fees. So if the buyer has a realtor and the seller has a realtor today, the commission is split between the buyer and the seller, but the seller has to pay both commissions. And you know, the 2.5 and 2.5, or 3 and 3% that add up to the 5 or 6%. So this would require that the buyer, if the buyer has their own broker, the buyer pays the broker commission. That would add to the down payment requirement that a person would have to make when they're buying a house, which could have a pretty big impact. That of everything in the decision, obviously the Vertical Trade Association of realtors would be impacted by the big decision of respecting the amount of the commissions and the control of the association over everybody's rates. But the part that I think has maybe will have bigger ramifications on the industry and just buyers is the idea that if a buyer has to pay that commission, what it does to their ability to put a down payment on a piece of property. So this is an interesting one. It's a Supreme Court decision, so that's a court of final jurisdiction. There's no, like, this is the new deal. but how it will play out in the real estate industry is still very much an open question.
All right, well, thanks for that update. That actually is everything we have for you today. We appreciate you tuning in. We will be back here Monday at 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.